What's going on, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the I Test, a fantasy football podcast. We're here to help you simplify your decisions as a fantasy football manager. And today we are Bobless. We are doing a little John clip today. He is going to be the superstar of this episode, and he has for us here a nice prediction, a bit hot take, if you will. And as always, guys, please click that subscribe button if you like this stuff. We love doing it for you, and we're here to help keep you up to date on all things fantasy. We're posting stuff all the time. We would really appreciate it. So, John, I hear the Magic 8 Ball spoke to you this morning, and you have a sexy little prediction for everybody here.
I do, and I feel like a lot of you are not going to like it, but that's kind of how fantasy goes when it comes to predictions. It's not everyone's going to agree, but I've got my reasoning. And if you've been watching so far, you've probably read the ticker down below that I am projecting. Yeah, it's a little bit of a projection and a prediction mixed together.
There you go. There you go.
I'm predicting Quentin Johnston to outperform Jackson Smith and Jigba in 2023.
Wow.
Crazy, right? Let me share with you my reasoning, Paul, and for all of you people watching on YouTube and listening on Spotify and Apple Podcasts, we do appreciate it. They're both wide receiver threes on their respective teams. All right. Now, let's back up real quick. Before the draft, Jackson Smith-Jigba was the number one wide receiver in terms of rookies. Okay. And he was a top 5 pick in rookie drafts for the most part. Quentin Johnston was predicted not even be drafted in the first round of the NFL draft, which hurt his value deeply in rookie dynasty drafts. Now, after Quentin Johnston was taken in the early or mid-20s by the Chargers, that did boost his value back up, and I believe Quentin Johnston was still like a top 7 to 9 pick in rookie drafts. If you fell in that range,
the top 10.
He was a mid-round pick in your rookie draft. So you would think, in redraft, Jackson Smith and Jigba is going to be much better than Quentin Johnston. But I'm here to tell you that's not the case, all right? Let's go into who they're competing with for not just targets, but playing time. All right? So let's start with Quentin Johnston's team, the guy who I think is going to outperform Jackson Smith and Jigba. Let's talk about Mike Williams, all right? In 2022, he was the wide receiver 32. Now, that's not just because of performance, or is it? Paul, do you think Mike Williams is injury prone?
I'd have to go yes.
So would I. Until I dug in some research, he only missed 4 games last year.
Wow.
Now, he did get pulled very early in the middle of that 4-game span. So we'll call it 5. Mm-hmm. He did not, he couldn't play 5 complete games. All right. So, and in the most of his career, Mike Williams has played in almost every single game in the season besides his rookie season. So I don't know if injury prone is the right word. I think that Mike Williams is just not as good as we may think. For example, his highest scoring game last year was in week 2 against the Chiefs. He scored 25 points. All right. You'd like that out of your wide receiver 2 on an NFL team. And I guess you could say your starting roster in fantasy, but he only scored over 20 points 4 times. So we're not seeing that high tier player that if you've been following along on Twitter, there's like polls all around. They're like, who's the best wide receiver 2 on their team? Is it Jalen Waddle, T. Higgins, Devontae Smith, and Mike Williams? After hearing what I just said, you're going to put Mike Williams in a group with T. Higgins, Devontae Smith, and Jalen Waddle. Now, I can understand why T. Higgins doesn't belong there either, but still, T. Higgins can have a T. Higgins game. You don't see many Mike Williams games out there, especially with the fact that Keenan Allen only played 10 games last year. And Mike Williams was not going balls to the walls and scoring when Keenan Allen was out. You know who was? Austin Eckler.
Yeah.
I don't know, Paul. Now, Keenan Allen, he's not that injury prone either. So I do think Keenan Allen, even though he is 31 years old, I think that's a bit of a concern. And he battles like the hamstring issue. That was all last year, though. A lot of years before 2022, he was playing almost full seasons. So I think it is age catching up to Keenan Allen. Mike Williams, I think, is like 28 or 27 or something like that. So he's still got some time. But I just don't think Mike Williams is that good. And he did miss some games last year.
Mike Williams is 28.
Okay, cool. So with the combination of Keenan Allen getting older and missing more games than, say, Mike Williams, and, of course, adding into the fact that Mike Williams is not as good as we think he is, I think Quentin Johnston has a higher chance of playtime with the Chargers. Now let's jump over to the Seahawks here. Jackson Smith-Njigba, wide receiver 3 on the Seahawks. DK Metcalf, he's 25 years old. He has not missed a game in his career. And he's a red zone target. Last year, I believe he had like 6 touchdowns, but all the other years that he's played, he's had like double digits. I'm almost positive, if not very close.
Yeah. No, you're right. In his rookie year, he had 7, but in 2020 and 21, 10 and 12.
Okay, gotcha. So we'll still call him a red zone target. 6 isn't horrible.
Easily. Yeah, no, he's still a red zone target.
He's 230 pounds and like 7 feet tall. So, okay. So DK's not missing games. He's young. I'm projecting him to play another full season next year. Let's go to Tyler Lockett. He's just as old as Keenan Allen, but he hasn't missed more than 2 games in a season in his whole career.
Wow.
Okay, and Tyler Lockett had a career year last year, breakout player with Geno Smith.
Mm-hmm.
So, again, with the combination of Keenan Allen getting older, Mike Williams missing some games and not really playing that well, you combine that with DK Young, never missed a game in his career, and you combine that with Tyler Lockett coming off of a breakout season, and he too does not miss that many games. I just think that Quentin Johnston is going to get more playing time. The Chargers are probably going to score more points this year than the Seahawks, which makes me think more touchdown opportunities for Quentin Johnston. And let's not forget Quentin Johnston's size. I mean, he's jump ball king. Of course, he's working with normal rookie issues of not pinpointing the ball and catching the ball with his chest. I think that can all get worked out in the offseason. And I don't think that Quentin Johnston is a better overall receiver than Jackson Smith-Njigba. In fact, I do think Jackson Smith-Njigba has more breakout potential. And for a dynasty roster, I would choose JSN any day, I would say, over Quentin Johnston. But for 2023 redraft, the season that we are 7 weeks away from the biggest day of our lives, and that is draft day on Labor Day weekend, most likely, you're going to be faced with an option. Do you want to draft Jackson Smith-Njigba at his current ADP of 76? Or do you want to draft Quentin Johnston at his current ADP of 96? That's right. We're talking about a round and a half to 2 rounds difference. And I think you're reaching on JSN. You could get players like Christian Kirk, Jahan Dotson. You could get Brandon Cooks. I would take all those guys in 2023 over Jackson Smith-Njigba. I truly would. For redraft, okay? Quentin Johnston, 96. I think that's decent value. I still think that you could wait on Quentin Johnston, and he could fall to you in, say, the 10th round or the 9th round, really. Probably the 9th round. You could get Quentin Johnston. Players like Courtland Sutton, I would probably take over Quentin Johnston. They're projected to go after Quentin Johnston.
Mm-hmm.
I would take George Pickens before Quentin Johnston. Receivers like that. Michael Thomas, I would take him over Quentin Johnston because they're wide receiver 2s on their team. Quentin Johnston is still a wide receiver 3. I think he needs to go in like the 9th or 10th round, and I think that may even out as we get closer to redraft season. But do not take Jackson Smith-Njigba over Quentin Johnston this year, says my Magic 8 Ball.
Yes. No, I couldn't agree with you more here, John. And I think a big thing here, too, is in Seattle, they have a lot of mouths to feed in the wide receiver room, kind of similar to LA. But I think the big thing for Seattle is they have Ken Walker, who was a stud last year, and then they used a second-round pick on Zach Charbonnet. So this Seattle team does love to run the ball. And this LA Chargers team has Justin Herbert, who, I don't know about you, I'm taking Herbert's talent over Geno Smith any day of the week. And the Chargers like to throw the ball. So I love this prediction, John. And I think it's something that people miss. I think people fall for the flashiness that JSN was the number 1 receiver taken off the board this year.
And Quentin Johnston was the 2nd.
Exactly.
Right?
So, yeah.
What's the difference?
Not much.
And Jackson Smith-Njigba was also drafted later than we all projected. So he
people had him going
fell.
to Houston. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. He fell. But I still think Jackson Smith-Njigba overall, over a career, I would take him over Quentin Johnston for now. I mean, I'm not going off of much. But for 2023, let Quentin Johnston fall to you. You can grab him at ADP, but I also think he's someone that's going to fall in redraft. So get ready for the rookie wide receiver 1. I don't know.
I could see it. I'm just saying I could see it.
You want to close this out, Paul?
Yeah. No, that was great, John. I'm glad the Magic 8 Ball spoke to you. I can't wait for it to speak to you again. But as always, guys, we really appreciate you listening. Like before, if you like this stuff, please hit that subscribe button. It helps us out a ton. And please be sure to leave a comment. Is John's Magic 8 Ball correct? Is John's Magic 8 Ball wrong? We would love to hear from you. We have some really, really exciting stuff coming in the future. You are not going to want to miss it. Can I tease it a little bit? Do you care if I tease it a little bit?
Tease it.
We are going to be giving away a jersey in the next couple of weeks to a month, somewhere around there. We're going to have a giveaway for that. So be sure to be subscribed for when we drop more details for how you can participate in that contest. I'm not going to tell you who the player is, but let's just say we are all very excited about him in the fantasy community. And as always, guys, I'm sorry.
Or her.
Or her. Yeah. We don't see gender here. So that's good. But as always, guys, we appreciate everything. Be sure to comment, subscribe, and check out our other social medias on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok,
Twitter.
Yeah, be sure to check us out, guys. All that stuff is in the description on the video. Peace.
Later.